Well, good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be able to practice today with you, and some yesterday with some of us who have been together over the weekend. I'm loving this decoration here in the middle of the room. I'm watching the snow slowly melt into the bowl. Listening to all the mindfulness trainings that we just read, and all the awareness and seeds of understanding which are touched by those words inside. There's so much in them. Each one is its own world of practice, and then to hear them and feel in the room our response to those words and the readings and the resonance of so many different people's voices. And I kind of feel like that snow a little bit, like and there's some prickly pine boughs around, and yet I'm still melting. Yesterday, during the program for our Mindful Living Weekend, we watched and listened to a video recording of Thai from 11 and a half years ago, preparing for the winter retreat in Plum Village. A very rich talk, very pointed too, very strong. Calling us back into a place of, from our awareness, a place of power really, where we realize that we are choosing a lot. We are deciding a lot. And we have in each moment an opportunity to bring something into the world. And the choices that we make affect how we will experience our next moments and how others around us will experience their next moments too. One of the emphasis that Thai was offering is on this practice of consumption, mindful consumption. And it's twice in the mindfulness trainings we just read, we hear this reference to something called the four nutriments: edible food, sense impression food, volition food, and consciousness food. And this is a way in which in Buddhism and Buddhist psychology we look at it's really as karma, how we look at the effect of our actions and of our actions as individuals, but also as a collective. And so we are all intertwined, interwoven, interrelating, interbeing with one another, and that has that constant movement and interaction and relationship is generating something, right? And this is a way of looking at that. So like when I'm interacting with the world through the foods that I eat, literally the food I eat, the edible foods, there are results of that interaction. There are causes, there are fruits of that action that take place. So depending on what I ingest in terms of edible food, my belly's going to feel well or not. Right? That's one kind of effect. Long-term effect of nutrient balance that my body might need. Short-term effect of how it might even biochemically alter my experience in my body. Right? These are all things that happen with edible foods. Plus, there's a lot more that goes on. We're feeding ourselves the lives of that food, right? Just like I'm coming into this moment offering you words that come from my life experience. A carrot coming into our bodies brings its life experience into our body and becomes a part of us. And so on with all the edible food we choose. Everything we decide to eat in that way has an effect, but it also has an effect not just on us and our bodies, but on the whole world, because we are ingesting each other all the time. Right? So everything that's gone into the life of that carrot is something that we are feeding ourselves, and we're also sort of saying yes to that in choosing to take it in. Yes to everything that the life of the carrot has in it. So the strawberries picked in the field by a migrant worker, we're saying yes to that. Right? This is the power that we have, right? And it generates life and vitality, health and well-being, or not, in us and in the world. And I don't know that it's possible that we're ever really going to get it perfect and have all our options laid out for happy, happy, joy, joy kind of moments. It may be that there's always a sense of holding and embracing and transforming suffering, and how can we do our best to nourish the well-being of ourselves and the world. Right? So not about getting it perfect, getting it right, but how can we do our best? Tai talked about needs, and he talked about needs that were real needs and needs that were like just actually things you want, or things you don't necessarily really need. He used the example several times of going to the refrigerator to look for something to eat, and many times when we do that, we don't actually need something to eat. But we do that because we need something, and we're trying to fill up that space with a sensation that we know is pleasurable. But really what we might need is time to hold something that's painful and difficult. We might need conditions that help us to be present with things that don't feel so well. Oh, but it's so much nicer just to ingest that thing that tastes good and distract ourselves from that other part of ourselves which actually has a need, right? To cover it up. Right? So we have all this is built in, right? In the study and the exploration of the practice of food, edible food, but then also sense impression food, volition food, and consciousness food. Tai talked a lot about volition food. Volition food is what is it that we actually want? And our deeper wants, our deeper aspirations, our deeper hopes and intentions, they drive a lot of our decisions and our choices and how we then consume. So it's a kind of food at that deep level of volition. What do I really want? I remember when I was a novice monk and I was asked a question about that. I was asked a question, why you grew up and you had like a healthy family, relatively speaking, and you had all this stuff going for you, why have you given it all up to go into the monastery and become a monk? It's interesting because there's a sutra that has very similar questions in it that I discovered later, but this was in my first month as a novice. I was asked that question in a big retreat. And this fellow was asking me this question with real genuine curiosity, like, I'm here. He came on retreat to explore this stuff, but he came on and but I don't know that I would make the decision that you made, because you had all these, your life was pretty good, but why are you stepping away from all these things which are pretty good in your life, healthy family, relatively affluent and well off, like you're doing okay, right? Why do you put all that aside and go into this path? And I didn't know how to answer. I never thought about answering that question, but it was just really clear to me. I was like, well, this is what I want. I want to practice. Like, that's the biggest thing in my life, is to realize this kind of understanding and compassion. And this form of life, this shape of life, the monastic shape of life, is the best way to do that. At least that I've found. Right? So it was, I'm choosing this life because my deep aspiration is to realize these things. And so I could see how my volition, right, was a very big part. So then my volition and consuming that volition, right, eating that desire, is leading me into touch with things, really to discern very clearly what aspects of life would support the development of mindfulness practice, diving deep into interbeing, diving deep into understanding and compassion. What kinds of things in the world would support that? And I found all kinds of conditions supporting that in the monastery and with the structure of the life there. And I wasn't finding so many of those conditions in educational institutions, in society, in work, in what people of the world were interested in. Now, I know that we all, it's gray. There's some of this and some of that, right? But in that moment, I saw that really clear. I was like, I really want this, and because I want it, I'm choosing it. I'm deciding that I had this energy could take me forward. Just like food would give you energy, that volition gave me a lot of energy to shift my life and to let go of things that were seemingly important before, including an engagement to be married. Whew, right? Let all that go because I want to practice. That volition gave me a lot of energy. It was interesting in the talk yesterday for me to contemplate how Tai was bringing these two aspects of volition, this deep intentions and aspirations, and how intertwined they are with sense impressions, which was a big part of the talk, was dedicated to the relationship that we have with technology and sensory impressions. And I can see that right there, that what is it that I really want would affect a lot what I decide, what I choose to take in. So when we were reading the mindfulness trainings, I had these images, these little memories, just short things popping up. I asked that question of the whole Sangha, right? Please take this moment to reflect on your practice of this mindfulness training. And after the ones that were about mindful consumption, I saw in my mind all the books that I've been reading and listening to and all the films that I've watched over the last month, all these things popping up and going, well, yeah, those aren't really taking me in the direction of my deeper aspiration. That was there. And so there's this deep connection between what is it that I really want and what is it I decide to do and take in my daily life. It's very real. And if I really want that clear mind, I shouldn't choose to take in things which disperse my mind, which agitate me, which cause me, in a sense, harm on my path and my aspiration. So it's not a matter of good or evil or right or wrong, but it's a matter of, does this support what I really want or not? Yeah, and I was like, wow, I could just as easily choose to listen to Dharma talks or read wonderful books about interesting people and their adventures, into, healing and growth and learning as I could reading fantasy fiction about adventures with strange beasts in other worlds and things like that. My teenage children love this sort of thing, and it's gotten me into it a little bit. I loved it when I was a teenager too. So it's like come around full circle, and then you read these things and you go, yeah, but there are some really cool underpinning themes and meanings, and the way in which the relationship growth between these two people is so wonderful in the context of a whole lot of blood and gore. Right? And so what do I really want? Right? Would I like to see a little bit of relationship growth in the midst of a whole terrible story? Right? I can see that in the world right now. Or would I really like to make choices about what I take into my consciousness, into my body, to support these deeper aspirations that I hold? What do I really want? When we look at the picture of the Eightfold Path, which is the heart and soul of Buddhist practice, teachings offered by the Buddha thousands of years ago that we still look at today, all of that usually starts with the first element, a right view or understanding. And I just want to paint a picture around this and how this connects to volition and intention in our life. Just so you see the structure of the tools of practice and how this isn't random in any way. The next three elements of the path are right thinking, right speech, and right action. And these are actually action as a whole in Buddhism. Our inner life in terms of our thinking and our intentions. Right? And how that reaches out into the realm of communication and connection with others through words and through listening. And how that also expanding that out into the choices that we're making in our daily life in terms of what we're going to do bodily, the actions of our body. And if you look at this, this is like the underpinnings of all of that expression out into the world. And this is the place where we see the culmination of all that I really want. Then what do I do with that? How do I move in thought, in word, in deed, out into the world? Right? So I paint this picture because I wanted to just share, like, for me, the structure of this practice is so crystal clear, and the overlay of all the different kinds of teachings is so clear. This next element is typically called, right, livelihood. And what do you think of when you think of livelihood? work, yeah. And nowadays, typically, it's like the money I make. How do I make money? Yeah. I would like to, just as I would like to expand view to include all understanding and speech to include communication, the whole realm of communication and connection. Livelihood as the sum of all of this. And an expression that I came across some years ago that I really liked was the shape of life, the shape of your life, right? For a while I was using the word lifestyle as one of the kind of descriptors of that, but that's not really what it is. It's really the whole shape of our life. So this sum of all of our actions actually is what our life looks like, right? And it's really, this is the reaching deeply out into the space of connection with the whole world, right? The way that I choose to think and speak and act, say, for example, in terms of edible food, takes a particular shape in my relationship with the wide world around me, right? The way in which I choose the kinds of media I choose to consume, the kinds of sensory impressions I choose to participate in, right? That gives a particular shape of my life. Like, what's the print that my life has on the world around me, and what's that world around me printing upon me? That's how I see that area, that livelihood. It's also in Ty's talk yesterday, he talked about the non-separation between work and life, right? So it's kind of like looking at that, like the way in which I orient myself to something determines whether it's work, whether it's something that I have to do or has a sense of obligation in it, or whether it's something I do with freedom and with joy and with presence. And I see the aspect of livelihood as this place of deep interrelationship with the world around me, the web reaching out from my personal individual actions, reaching out. How does that reach out and connect in all the places it does out onto our whole world? So then the other side of this effort or diligence, mindfulness, and concentration. Again, I haven't put the right in front of all these, but there's a right in front of all these, and that's to throw you off into the sense of duality and success and failure, and make you struggle a whole lot. No, it's there to indicate that sense of, is it right that I would consume all of these things that take me away from my higher aspiration, right? Or not. So if I'm consuming things that take me away from my deeper desire, if I'm engaging in conversations, in activities that water seeds of despair and frustration and violence in me, when actually what I really want to do is build relationship, connection, and healing, right? That's not right. That's not right thinking that would do that. That's not right action, right? But right action would be in this context of taking me towards that wholesome aspiration that I have. Whatever takes me towards that has an aspect of rightness to it. Whatever builds those qualities of understanding and compassion in me, if that's what my high aspiration is, if that's what I really want, then that has rightness in it. And here is that the other side of this outward reaching into the world is this inward reaching. The way I pull myself in, I keep myself in this practice with effort. I remember, I am aware, I'm present, to stay with long enough that I can really understand another layer, another bit more deeply, maybe a fresh perspective. But if I don't really stay present with, give the effort and the mindfulness, that compassionate, inclusive gaze through all the layers of my being and the layers of the world around me, I don't stay with it enough, my understanding won't grow and deepen and won't feed me to learn how to act more beautifully or more true to my higher aspirations. Right? I'd like to do a little bit with you here, right now. And with a little bit of contrast, you know how when you go in for like one of these big tests in the hospital and they put dye in your blood because they want to see more clearly what's going on? This contrast, I want to do a little of that. I hope that you will indulge me. I think it's pretty easy. It's not entirely easy, but it's really clear, and it seems like it should be easy, when we see that something outside of us, like perhaps a certain kind of food, doesn't do us right in our body. It's pretty clear, right? Don't eat it, right? There are certain sorts of things that are there that water seeds of despair and anger in our consciousness, and we know it, so don't take them in. That's really clear. That's what I mean easy. It's like easy to see. It might not be entirely easy to do because we have habit energies, but it's pretty easy to understand. And I don't need to talk about that. I would never want to lecture someone on the changes they should make in the choices that they give. I want to inspire you to think about what it is that you really want to do and then explore that. But what it takes inwardly is a whole nother matter, right? Okay, so can we count off 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 around the room, starting with Bunny? And if you're a 1, just put a hand up like this, not high, so that you remember that you're a 1.
1, 2.
1, 2, 1,
2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1,
2,
1, 2. 1.
Hands up for 1s. Yeah. Oh no.
pass. 1.
Okay, good. I'm looking at the spatial configuration here, so thank you for keeping your hands where they are. Yeah, it should work. Okay, keep them up, just because I'm going to talk for a moment here and you might forget. Oh, maybe I won't explain it. Maybe we'll just do instructions and we'll dive right in, okay? 2s. All of the 2s. I would like you to practice sitting meditation. So be comfortable. Set yourself in a position where you feel like you could relax and breathe. And I would like to invite you to keep your gaze turned down and really focus on the space of your body. And I would like you to really feel how the physical space of your body is very clear, and where it ends, where its shape is, it's very clear, it's very well defined. And I'd like you to bring the shape of your mind to the shape of your body. And keep holding that awareness of the shape of your mind and your body being in the same space. I'd like you to contain yourself, to be whole and full in yourself right now. Feel that in this breath, in this body, in this mind space that you hold in the room, Feel that sense of fullness, feel that sense of presence. This is where I am, and please continue to practice with this, because we're going to bring chaos all around you. Right? Just continue to breathe and notice the space that you're in and maintain that. Keep yourself beautiful and true in this moment. Keep yourself whole and feeling well right in that spot in this moment. And stay there in the midst of the chaos. Ones, you might look at each other, just look at the ones. Look at those, you see your hands. Twos, keep your eyes closed and gaze down. And we look at each other and say hello and introduce yourself and start up some conversation. Yeah, just reaching out. It's very interesting to see. Hi Jan, I haven't seen you in so long. It's been a really long time. They're doing pretty well. It's big and all over the place. Yeah. Not so much. It's been circus arts over at Pine Hill. Fianna's at Pine Hill now, so we've been doing the hilltop. Marie-Douce, yes. Yeah. I'm just borrowing your bell. Please stay right where you are.
It was a challenge getting into the camp last night because at 11 o'clock. The snow drifted all the time.
And we're all invited to bring ourselves back to that space. Right where you are, right where you are. Tuis, you're welcome to open your eyes now. That is a very loving space. This is a very loving conversation happening around you. But maybe you can feel the tug and the pull when you're in your concentration, when you're in your breath, in your body, and you feel that. But we're going to flip roles now. And try it the other way. I really feel that sense of like, this is the space that I'm in, and then how easily there's the tug and the push and the pull to be drawn out. This is our power. This is our place of power, right? To be able to hold that and maintain that in the midst of whatever is going on, to know right where we are and who we are. This is the line that we practice. Yeah. And it makes a huge difference, right, for navigating the kind of moment that we are in, especially collectively as a society right now, where there's so much tension and so much chaos, right? But do you know where you really are? And who you really are, and what you're really feeling, and what you're going through. And yeah, there will be a tug, and you'll fail, and you'll be drawn out here, but you know then how to come home and where to come home to. Right? This is what we're learning. Okay, switching roles. So again, ones had their hands up, right? Right? Okay, and twos were sitting still. Okay, ones, you can put your hands down and close your eyes. Find yourselves comfortable. Find yourselves breathing in the space of your body. Really feel and fill up the space of your body with awareness. And bring the Bring the mind into this space. Find the edges of your mind and collect them. Bring them in, so that the shape of the mind and the shape of the body are pretty much the same. Inhabit this space with awareness and hold your sense of integrity, presence, feeling whole and well, and the possibility that everything that you might need is right here, right now. Let that open your heart so you can feel this space. Not cut off from the world, but very clear in where you are and where the world around you is. And continue to hold this concentration and this breath, this loving, open embrace of yourself, but well contained, held, clear, bold. And the rest of us, now you may look around and maybe raise your hand if you're one that will be sharing and talking and interacting, so we can look around and see. Yeah, and look to your neighbor and introduce yourself. And say hello. How's your retreat been going?
It's been great.
Yeah?
Thank you.
It's nice to have you all here again.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here. We come up from New York City, so it's
Yeah.
really just beautiful.
The first night was okay, not too cold.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was fun. It was kind of fun, the candles and the power and everything.
Yeah. We actually, in our house, we will often turn off the power a little bit in order, like many nights in the winter, just to have candlelight, just to enjoy that atmosphere.
It's beautiful, yeah. It's also it's so striking how much light one candle makes when it's so dark.
When it's the only thing you got. Yeah. True. Maybe that's like a metaphor for a person.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Well, thank you for coming. It's been really nice to have you here. How's it going, Laura? How's the year? You feel moved? No? Yes?
Oh, very
Very slowly? You got one of the storage containers there, right, though?
Yes.
So that's cool. Oh, awesome. Well, I'm glad that you're here now, and I'm glad that you didn't try to come a month ago, because I think the weather would have made it much harder to move in then. Yeah, just and the intense cold and all that, it would have been quite a...
The mud. Just right.
Nice. I'm glad you're here.
Not. We don't practicing in my own way, I guess.
I feel that support now as we all begin to come back to that space too. As we all begin to come back into ourselves, you might even feel a sense of relief, being able to trust outward again. Thank you for practicing. This is a very interesting exercise together. This is something that I have a couple of exercises for working with this, but I call it the working with the shape of the mind. because I feel like we as people in general don't pay attention to that. And we don't realize that the mind actually has a body. It's not like the physical body at all, and it doesn't follow the same laws and rules that the physical body does. How easy it is with a certain train of thought to be carried far away on some journey, right? And yet our body's sitting here, but the shape of our mind is dispersed and off somewhere, right? And learning about this is an inner exercise. And it's very difficult to do in the kind of environment which I just presented, but this was highly structured, so it makes it clear. Moments like this that have been really profound for me, for example, similar to this exercise, there was once when I was in a big supermarket they're called Leclerc, in France, in this massive supermarket. It was really crowded. I don't know why it was so crowded that day, but I was a monk at the time and I'm shopping for the community, and my second body, you always go in pairs, my second body was going to get the car, and I was standing alone in this line of people, and there was utter chaos of noise and visual audio stimulation. It was just like so much, these big high echoey buildings with like hundreds of people all chatting and doing things and moving things around in colors and all this happening. And I just decided I needed to really practice to be right where I was. And it was such a contrast that it actually helped me, right? Like to notice, okay, here I am, right? And then it turned from this really almost strenuous exercise in like staying with myself to once I was there and I went, oh, that's enough. Right? And that's why I wanted to use these words of like, you feel whole, you feel complete when you're there, right? Like feel that, because when you feel that way, you can kind of soften. And I was so fine to be just where I was. And in so doing, I became so connected to everything that was around me. But not being dispersed in the connection, being in myself and connected. And I could see and hear and recognize so much of what was happening around me with real clarity and ease. But this sense of where is my mind, you can go find that old song if you want. It's a fun song. I think it's the Pixies, I'm not sure. Yeah. Bring that shape of your mind in, like work with that, discover when it's near, when it's open, when it's wide, when it's soft and porous, when you need to have more of a definition and when you don't. And I say that based on the sense of right? You need it or you don't, based on what is appropriate to nourish that deep aspiration in you and how to bring it to life. But this work, this is the inner work. This is the work that happens inside of us, and this is also where we have the greatest strength, the most power. You can't really make someone else do something, but you can be very clear in what you bring to the world. I found this to be very helpful. So other ways that you can use that sort of fully embodying your space, for example, if you're talking with just one person, and you really collect yourself into the space of your body, and instead of just opening it, open only to that place where you are with the other person. This is really an interesting exercise and far more complicated when you do it like on a Zoom call or something like that. Right? But at least insofar as face-to-face with another person, you can try that. Just try, see the effect that it has on the way you're able to communicate, to stay present, to be present, to really connect with and understand the other. If you don't cut off the whole rest of the world, but you just contain your awareness. The shape of your mind is right here with them, right? And in that, you'll notice, like when they say something which touches a seed or some memory or story in you, and the shape of your mind wants to run off with that, right? And then you just bring it right back. You know? Learn about this inner exercise of the shape of the body of your mind. Hugging meditation is another way that we do this, and that was the instructions for hugging meditation are a perfect structure for this practice. Hugging meditation is when you give someone an embrace and you do so for at least 3, maybe 4 breaths. And the first, it could be much longer if you want it, but it's 3 breaths because there's 3 phases. The first breath is, I am fully present in myself. And when you hug someone else, that's typically not what you do. You want to be present with them. But you start by not doing that. Even though you might hold them in your arms, you make yourself fully present in your own body, in your own self. Then you open to include them on the second breath. And then the third breath, you just enjoy that space of togetherness, right? That's and the sense of fullness and impermanence and all that's in that moment, right? But that's you see the shape of the mind there. I'm in me. Now I'm just with this other person, and I sit there and enjoy that fullness, that life, that openness with the other person. And then you release. Maybe you release and you go, where else in the room is there someone to hug? And you're way out there. Or maybe you release them and you return to yourself, right? But you know where you are in this sense. You know where your mind is. You know where your consciousness is. And you use that energetic focus, right? And boundary making, which is not it's very soft. It's not really an edge that keeps something out. But it allows a concentration and a focus of all that you're radiating, all that you resonate, all that you bring. Right. I've also found it very helpful in moments where, similar to the kind of what this contrast exercise would bring, very helpful in moments where there's someone who I'm interacting with who I'm experiencing difficulty with, or they're bringing a very difficult energy, painful energy. Especially if it's triggering in multiple ways to you. Someone you know very well, someone you love and care for. So think of for example, one of my children. If one of my children is having a hard time, is kind of breaking down, there's multiple trigger points for me. One is that I feel terrible because this is someone I love and care for so much and they're having a hard time. That's one level. The other level is they're having a hard time and I need to help them hold that and have the sense of responsibility as a parent. And there are so many things that start interacting there. But this exercise, right, allows me to be present in myself and to include what they're going through without feeling destabilized if I'm able to do it. And honestly, I can get overwhelmed even when I'm trying to practice that. It can be too much. And I need to take a break and protect myself. But having that sense of sculpting my inner space, being able to move like that, helps me feel so much more stable and really keeps the awareness on how am I doing and what's my capacity, and is this true and is this right according to where I want to be. Again, that sense of on the path, there's what is it that I would really want to have happen in this moment of difficulty with my child, right? It's something beautiful that I really want. It's them to be well. It's their suffering to be held and transformed. It's us not to be having a hard time, right? These are all wonderful wants, desires in me. Now, what sorts of actions would support that and what won't? That's the right or the not right according to the path. So my volition, my intention, and then the action that supports that. Knowing my mind, knowing my inner space, sensing that will tell me I have the energy right now to sit here and to soften, and I feel tender, but I'm okay with that tenderness to be able to hold someone else who's suffering a lot. Or I might be like, nope, I'm like full, cup is full, this next drop is too much, and I go, Fern, I'm going upstairs. And I tell her, and she takes over. Or something like that, right? Like I need to take a space in order to recoup. Because if I don't, then I start to feel the sense of overwhelm, agitation, and now my actions aren't right anymore according to the intention of wanting to support the healing and the well-being. It's not that they're not right. They're right where they should be because I'm overwhelmed. So I'm getting stressed and I'm getting frustrated and I'm getting, right, maybe angry about this, or I'm feeling hurt, right? That's right where I should be, but it's not right according to my intention. My intention would be to do something in my thinking, in my speech, in my action that would support my deeper aspiration. We see it in the mindfulness trainings with taking care of anger. I won't, when anger arises in me, I won't engage in words and action like I normally do. Instead, I will step back and do walking and sitting meditation to embrace the feelings I have and to look deeply into why they're coming up. Right? I'm recognizing there are two different kinds of action I can take here. One is to escalate and go with the habit energy of righteousness and this anger which is out of control and this energy which wants to move. But that's not right according to the reconciliation I actually want. Right? Right would be to understand the suffering I have in me and to take care of it so that I can bring the sense of wholeness, which my well-being in that sense might not be fully healed, but my well-being will be that I at least have an embrace of where I'm feeling off. And I can bring both my practice of embracing and understanding and my pain. Right? I feel really full and complete with that sharing. And there's another piece I really wanted to just give you as food for thought. And so I'm kind of holding the sense of this roundedness, this fullness right now. And I just want to offer these thoughts because there are so many nuances to the difficulties that we face. Each situation is unique, and there are different factors that bear on each of us and in different situations in different ways. And so there's no one prescription which actually works. And what I've been offering is very general. And I wanted to offer just a couple of ways in which you might hold things depending on the context or the situation that you're in. You might hold it differently. And this has to do with that layer of when you come home to yourself, you see more clearly. So in terms of the Eightfold Path, when we practice mindfulness and concentration, our understanding grows, right? And in this case, what we're understanding is, if it's a difficult situation we're in, we're understanding how this difficult situation has come to be like it is, so that we know what to do and what not to do going forward. Right? Because our intention is not to escalate or continue the suffering, it's to understand and transform it. Right? And so we want our actions to go in that direction. So we're getting in touch with the difficult situation in such a way that our understanding deepens. And So in terms of karma, action, the action we undertake, action has this face where we experience it as if I act on my anger, it's going to cause pain. So action is a cause, but we also experience action as effect, where the things that have happened in the past, right, lead us to this experience we're having now. So action, we experience it on both sides. You see what I'm saying? Whatever I do brings out an effect to me and the world around me, but in the same way, I might be experiencing. So that's my action is a cause, but my action is also experienced as effect, and I experience the effect of action. Right? It's the other side of action. When we look deeply into our situation, whatever the situation is, we can see that action has, we can look into it in a level like this. I'm going to say, use the word individual. We look into our actions on the individual level. Me, mine, what's going on in my body and my mind, the story of my life, and so on. And these events that revolve around me and the perception of myself. And so I can just want to head that. We can look into karma, into action on that individual level. So there's the things that I do and say and the effects that they have. There's the things that have been said to me, done to me, and have an effect on me. And I'm looking through the lens of myself. But then you can also look at this in the sense of collective. And there's a difference in how you're going to respond based on how you look at something, right? So I can look at, say for example, the experience of my daily life right now. I might do really well to protect myself from sensory impressions, from all the bad news stories that are screaming around the space around me. I might just decide I'm not going to participate in them for a while. I need to turn off my news feeds. I need to slow down. I need to not really burden myself with so much of that. I know that there's a lot going on, and that's enough. And I need to focus on maintaining my own steps, my own breath, my own health, my own well-being. But there's also a reality that everyone around me is also participating in this. And so there's a collective aspect to this. So even if I just walk in the supermarket and I don't really talk to lots of people, but I go through that space with another 100, 200 people to do my shopping, and I don't really interact or talk to people, I move through a space that is energetically alive with the collective experience of this moment. So I can't separate my own individual experience from the collective experience. But I respond differently to those things. I can't breathe and cool and calm down the collective the way that I can do that with myself. But what can I do with the collective? The kind of presence or deep listening, or what would I offer, right? As a practice in the sense of the collective. So we look at an individual, we also look at the collective. And this is about understanding the area of influence that we have, and finding appropriate action. In the area of influence that we have. Sometimes a story of suffering that I'm feeling, I feel it as an individual, but it really belongs to the collective. And if I try to shoulder the entire burden of that myself, I will be destroyed. I will be crushed. So I have to be very careful. I have to come back to the present moment, which is my real sphere of influence, where my body and my mind are, and the people that I'm actually sitting in the room with, right? Not that whole situation of suffering which is out there that I'm trying to hold. I have to come back to what does that mean right here and right now? And that's what I'm referring to, like finding in the present moment what your true area of influence, of activity is, and engaging in that space. Yeah. The last thing I want to say about karma is that there's action, there's individual action and collective action, there's activity. There's also I don't know if I spelled that right. Is it transcendent or transcendent? What is it? E-N-T? Whoa! There's transcendent karma. Okay. This is important in terms of our practice, of the Plum Village tradition especially, the way that we look at the interbeing of suffering and happiness, the way that we look deeply to see the continuation and transformation of things, right? So that we don't get stuck in the idea or the story of who we are as an individual, and also not who we are as a collective, right? You see how I might say, in my life I suffer X, Y, and Z. And then I might look more deeply and I'd be like, but that's a continuation. It's my story of my parents and my grandparents and my ancestry. It's a collective thing. It's still me. Right? So there's me experiencing the suffering of this thing. And then there's me experiencing the suffering as handed down by my ancestors. But still me. And me in the context of a group. I'm now a collective. I'm now my ancestors. That's not as far as our practice goes. Our practice goes further. It really goes into the ultimate dimension, where we really have to soften the experience to go into that transcendent realm, where it's not me and it's not them, right? It's not a mind game. It's a step through and step beyond into a deep belonging. I don't have time to go into that piece deeply right now, but I wanted to point out that when we're talking about action, when we're talking about choosing what is right, what is true for the intentions and aspirations that we have, what is it that we want to build in ourselves and in the world, you can look at it on all these levels, and they're all helpful. So I can look at it as me, mine, and myself. I can look at it as the collective and society and the world and my ancestors. Right? Like I start to go wide there. And there's an opening and a sense of depth that grows with this. And I might respond differently in those different realms. But then I can also go to a really deep place where I can transcend that it's not about me and it's not about you. It's not up or it's not down. I can drop from the surface of the wave and all the waves interacting down into the water and really take refuge in the depth of transcendent understanding, the ultimate dimension. Yeah. I have arrived. I am home in the here, in the now. I am solid. I am free. In the ultimate, I dwell. So I can come home to the present moment and just be like, oh, okay, I'm more here now than I was before. Or I can come home to the present moment and my parents and grandparents and ancestors and teachers can be here with me. I'm opening, I'm wider. And through that door, I can transcend that there's nowhere to go and there's nothing to do. And that sense of depth and peace and strength, it's funny, frees me to do it, right? To do it well. Not to do it because I have to, or even because I want to. I wanted to paint that picture. And if it's confusing, good for a time. It's confusing to me too. It should be confusing for the mind, because the mind can't grasp beyond an up or a down or a right or a wrong. The mind only sees in that sense of duality. Or when I hold the suffering of my family and my ancestors in my heart, I hold the suffering of my people, my country, the world. But I hold it with the practice of breath and body, and I contain myself as we practiced and not let myself be swept away by it. But I hold it, and I bring my tenderness and my care to it. I step beyond space and time as I breathe in and out. I step beyond right and wrong. I step beyond victim and aggressor. And then I can look up and meet the world from that place with a kind of freshness and lightness and freedom that I don't have otherwise. I have 3 sounds.